Well, hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Welcome to the big dance.
AK, the Upsiders. Welcome here. We're
Mm-hmm.
your time traveler's guide to the present. And what that means is there's a lot going on. If you've opened a book, a magazine, or read the news, or scrolled down your feed, there's a lot of problems, a lot of issues that people put in your face.
I got a lot of problems with you people.
And what we're looking at here in the upside are the solutions
Yeah.
for day to day problems and who's
Hmm.
actually working on them right now. And yeah, we just highlight them, celebrate them, and let you know that there is another side to this, and that is the upside.
Yeah.
So I'm one of your hosts, Los, aka the artist formerly known as Los, aka your friendly neighborhood Los. And as always, I'm joined by,
Bucktooth Johnson.
okay,
Just Bucky Jones. West Mantooth.
also
What's wrong
known
with my
as
teeth?
also known as Bertram. He just
Yeah,
noticed
that's fine too.
a
Just
possible dental
my
issue.
my teeth they're becoming buck teeth.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. I blame. Yeah, never mind. You know, I'm happy to have them, Los. I'm thankful. I'm thankful to have teeth at all.
and that's the theme of today's episode.
Yes.
But yeah, before you do that, make sure if you're not already, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. And if you're able
Mm,
to, if your podcast player allows, maybe put a like in there, a thumbs up, give us a review.
mm.
Let your friends, your family, your worst enemies know about the podcast so they can listen to it and spread the
T-
wealth.
tell your therapist.
That too. That too.
Yeah,
We really appreciate you for pressing play on us. So
sure do. Thank you.
we'll get down to business. And today's episode, Bertram, tell us.
Yes. Just tell you the episode?
Just tell us,
Oh my gosh.
what's going on?
So today we are talking about dignity.
Hmm.
And just, being enough, Los. And I wanted to talk to you about this because I've been having some conversations about what are people besides their accomplishments, what are people besides the things that their actions and the things that they like, and I did some exploring a couple weeks ago on, man, what are people more than those things. And in my research, one of the things we talked about is, who says people have to have all these things? Like, no matter what, there is an inherent value in people, and people deserve dignity. And so I wanted to explore that this week.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
And yeah, because there's a lot of time we sort of lose, especially in this day and age, right? There's a lot of stimulation, a lot of influence. And so a lot of times, many of us lose sight on dignity, self worth, right? Because when you're
Yeah.
constantly being told what you're missing out on, what you're not, what you could be if you get this, if you do this to yourself, if you buy these clothes or buy these shoes or do this to your face, like,
Mm,
who knows? But deep inside, you don't even have to look that deep. There's a lot going on. That's why you're
yeah.
you. That's why you have the friends, the family who surround you. If you don't, there are people who tolerate you. And so that's worth enough in and of itself. But we have to tap
Yeah.
into that every once in a while and
Um,
remind ourselves.
one question
Yeah.
that I would like to pose the audience is, what is something small that happened that helped you remember your dignity this week? What's something small that helped you remember your dignity this week? I was posed with that question, Los, and I wasn't in a place to answer that. And so, would you help guide our audience by answering that question, by maybe starting with, what is the definition of dignity, and then where does that come from? Where does this idea of dignity come from?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So dignity, when we think of dignity, we should see it as the inherent value and worth every human being carries just by existing, just by being out there.
Mm,
There's dignity there because you bring something to the table. And going to your question, right? What are you bringing to the table, right?
yeah.
That's what we should, how we should look at it. uh, because a lot of times when we could be so self-critical or so self-conscious when you ask to say something good about yourself. There's that dreaded interview question, tell me about yourself.
Oh
That's
man, which is a very important question.
it is a very important question. Or even if you're meeting someone casually, hey, what do you like to do? Oftentimes that feels like you're being put on the spot. But like when you're able to, again, like I said, tap into that, who
Hmm.
you are exactly, you know, that's what reverberates and how people respond really well to you and how they see you having a sense of an aura. That's big. A lot of
Mm.
that's going around now is who has an aura. I watch a lot of NBA, and nowadays
Come on.
superstars are measured by who has that aura. If you don't have that aura, you're not like a superstar. Like Jason Tatum, for instance, great player, but does he have the aura? A lot of that's up for debate. And
Man, you're
maybe
being hard on him.
maybe because he's not tapped into his dignity, man.
And what dignity is not, I think, is an important
Yeah.
conversation too. So if we're trying to really, define dignity, let's talk about what it's not. So
Yeah.
dignity is not transactional, right?
Hmm.
It can't be bought or sold. It doesn't go up or down depending on how productive you are and how others treat you. And I think one of the issues is that systems tend to forget that. And then it's not something you earn. It doesn't depend on your job or your achievements or what other people think of you. It is the inherent value that you have just by virtue of being alive.
Yeah.
You get
Exactly.
it no matter what,
Exactly. So going
which,
back
man,
to when you're
beautiful.
in yeah, but going back to when you're interviewing, a lot of us get caught up in, oh, what have I achieved, or what am I taking on that's a little outside of what might jump out on my resume. No, it's like tell people about yourself, right? So one thing I say, for instance, and I'm not tooting my own horn because trust me, I have a lot of problems. But one thing I always say in my interviews, given the types of jobs I'm applying for, is I tell them I'm a problem solver. I like to
Mm,
get to the bottom. I'm very curious because that really is saying something about me, but it's also relating to the role that I'm discussing with them, right? So again, being tapped in on what you already have, like I'm never not going to be a problem solver. I always like these sort of rabbit holes and rolling my sleeves up and figuring it out. That's something, I feel like I always bring to the table. So just an
what a great,
example.
that was a beautiful answer. I'm going to steal that. Um, so will you talk about the some of the history behind dignity just really quick? I know we don't need to cover it too bad, but the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Yes. Yeah. Very important history lesson for everyone. So, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was a document adopted by the UN, the United Nations General Assembly, that enshrined the
Hmm.
rights and freedoms of all human beings. And it
Led by
was
what god?
goddess, um,
Yeah,
drafted by,
the
chair,
Nor.
the chair of the UN committee, which was Eleanor Roosevelt,
Eleanor Roosevelt, baby.
the wife of then the late uh, um, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I said late
Yeah,
then because he was dead,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and now all of them are dead, but he was
If you don't
late.
know your first ladies, Eleanor's probably the goat.
Yeah, some say,
Then
yeah,
Abigail number two,
yeah.
probably. Abby Adams might be right there too.
Well, and Woodrow Wilson's wife,
Edith Wilson, yeah,
yeah,
got to put her up there too.
she
Yeah,
many
that's
argue she's the first female president.
agreed.
She
Yeah,
was
that's
incapacitated and
thank good. Never mind. But
okay,
that's the
yeah.
Holy Trinity right there.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, she was the chair of the UN committee, and it was accepted by resolution 217, if you're wondering, on December 10th of 1948 in Paris, France.
Yeah.
That is not Texas.
And you could imagine right after coming out of the Holocaust and World War II, just being able to have these conversations of, hey, we want to make sure nothing like this ever happens again, and making sure that we all agree on a baseline of human rights that no matter what culture you are, no matter what religion, which is something very important about dignity and specifically the Declaration of Human Rights, is that it was a milestone document because it used a lot of universalist language, no reference to a particular culture or political system or religion. And I think that's important to say when we're talking about dignity. Los, you did an excellent job. So let's go back to that original question. What's
Yeah.
something small that helped you remember your dignity this week? And I brought this up because I wanted to engage our audience to leave a comment, however you're getting this podcast. If it's on YouTube, if you can leave a comment, answer that question. What's something small that helped you remember your dignity this week? Los, would like to answer that question?
No, I wouldn't, but I'll do it.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
I could
kidding.
give you some examples because that's still a hard question to answer. And so I had to have some examples. Okay.
Yeah. Tell us.
So, was there an example this week of someone using your name and looking you in the eye and just kind of talking to you like a person? Like that happened to me at my favorite coffee shop. They used my
Hmm.
name for the first time. Normally they only use
Ooh.
my dog, but that's a place where you don't feel very dignity, right? Like you go into a coffee shop and it's very transactional, right? And we said dignity is not something that's transactional, so it's very tough to feel dignity when you're in line at the coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
You set a boundary and don't apologize for it,
Mm.
which for me that's my example of dignity, right? Because this week at work somebody, I say yes a lot. I get overwhelmed because I want to take a lot of tasks on, and recently we were having a conversation and I was like, yeah, I can't do that this year. I'm not going to be able to do that because I'm not going to be able to do this and that. And I just flat out kind of said it and just like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that. And to the credit of my employers, they were really nice about it. And they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll have a conversation with this person and see what we could do to work around that. And then they were like, don't feel bad, don't feel guilty about it. And I said, I don't. and, and that was a
Uh,
big moment for me. I
that's
thought of you
great.
actually because
That's
that's
big.
something you would do, right? You'd be like, "Oh, no, I'm fine,"
Yeah. I can't do it.
and and it truly made me really proud, man. I didn't apologize for it, and I didn't feel guilty about it. And for some of us, man, that is not shame spiraling and feeling guilty. I think keeping this in mind that all people have inherent value is why I did that really well, Los.
Yeah.
So that was something in this episode. What we were going to talk about was in the back of my head. You do something kind for yourself without needing to earn it.
Hmm.
You were honest about how you felt, and nobody fled. Or you advocated for someone else's dignity. Any examples come up to mind for you, Los?
Um, well, I guess it was external, meaning I didn't really tap into it myself. It was so yeah, full disclosure, Bertram knows this. I have not been doing well in my day job. And this past week we had a quarterly check-in, which is new but useful because a year could be a long time, and when you revisit some of the goals you set the year before, yeah, it may seem foreign. It's like, oh, I really said that. I really put that in as what I wanted
Wow.
to achieve. So we were able to revisit some of the things I outlined in February or whatever, whenever my review was. But yeah, it wasn't a surprise in terms of the evaluation. In fact, they pleasantly surprised me in many aspects because they highlighted some things I do well. But moreover, my manager said that despite all of my struggles, just know there are a lot of people who look up to you because of
Aw.
what I bring to the table, right? My
Yeah.
problem solving skills, my knowledge within the scope of what we do, and just the openness and how I'm always open to feedback, receptive to all of that. And it was just it was just a reminder of, again, it's not what I do necessarily, right? It's who I am, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you
And
don't
even
always
even
get
if you
those.
didn't do anything for
Yeah,
people, it's still okay, Los.
yeah,
Like
still
it's
okay.
still you still get to have dignity.
Yeah, exactly. So
You still have value.
that was yeah, that came from an unexpected source, right? Because
Mm,
it's all my manager's job to be critical of my work, but also acknowledge it, but just more deeply. They didn't have to sort of highlight some of my attributes, right? The values of who I am, and that was cool. So I guess that's an example that I could think of now.
that's beautiful, man. I'm
Other,
really
yeah,
proud of you.
and then also, loved ones who tell you they love you, or you know say good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Even
spoke
even if
before.
you're not doing anything.
Yeah, we've spoke before of how I I'm always uncomfortable with the question, "How are you?" Because what if
Yeah.
I told people most of the time I'm not doing well? Oftentimes with Bertram and I, it's okay. But most of the time, people don't know what to do with that information.
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, you're doing bad. You're doing badly right now. I don't want to hear. I was just asking for conversation. So
Yeah.
I always tell people, instead of, hey, how are you? I just say, hey, good to see you. Because I am happy to see these individuals. So it doesn't turn into that question. Not that I don't care
Yeah.
about those people, but like, let's just get to the point, right? I'm happy to see you. Thank you. Let's move forward, you know?
Yeah. In America, you do not have to answer that question. Somebody
Yeah.
says, "How are you?" I think foreigners find that really weird, right? You go to,
Yeah.
I think in Germany they teach you that, like, oh, wie bist du, or something like, how are you? And that is not a hello phrase. That's not a
Yeah.
greetings. That's you're legitimately asking that question. Some people look at you weird if you say that in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
So,
It's also like when we say like see you later, many cultures they'll be like, okay, when? When are we
what?
are we setting
I'm
a
going
date?
home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So based on that premise of dignity, Los,
Yeah.
uh, we have a few different things to look at. I wanted to find what are some stories going on in the world today that are looking at the upside, letting people keep their dignity, making sure that we are protecting, like Eleanor Roosevelt was doing, protecting dignity as a human right.
Oh, there's some good stuff going.
Yeah, man, there's always kinds of good stuff, That's man.
Um,
Why would you say that?
because it is a mad mad world out there, but
It's a mad, mad world. Yeah, that's true.
um, that's a good question. So I think when it comes to helping people, I would say, especially now with the tragedies that happen via the floods in Texas,
Yeah,
see a lot of efforts from people helping one another, helping in many cases rebuild or going through some of these searches to find loved ones. Um, with homelessness, that's one right there where there's all these organizations trying to help people get back into housing, get back on their feet.
yeah.
Um, yeah, being good neighbors even for those who don't have a roof over their head. Um, yeah, you have strength-based learning.
Are you,
Um,
are you
yeah,
looking at my stuff? Oh, you are.
yeah. I just saw that one. But homelessness is a huge one. That's always been one. It's close to
Yeah,
my
you
heart. Yeah.
well, you mentioned strength based learning. We could start there, I guess. That was talking about how a lot of modern schools are slowly transitioning to this idea of strength based learning, which is trying to curate more individualized plans for students, revolving around their interests and their strengths, and making that a feature of their education. We talk a lot about education where students have to spend a lot of time working on their weaknesses, right? If you have a
Mhm.
low reading score, they want you to get that up, and they want you to spend most of your day working on reading. If your math's really good, let's let it be good. Let's get your reading up. And that does not always work. And are we able to make a student uh, feel appreciated, feeling good, feeling, that intrinsic value, uh, based on working on a lot of places emanating from their strengths. So that was a really interesting thing that I saw. It's a conversation that's happening in schools right now, making sure that we customize learning plans based on a student's strength.
Absolutely.
Because man, they probably need it more than anyone, right? It's like we have a mental health crisis going on in schools, and having students come to school feeling good about themselves is really important for them being successful.
Absolutely. Yeah. So especially young too. It's like you should I've heard this before where like with parenting, right? And like not enough positive. There was a few years back there was this focus on like tiger moms, right? Like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
being really hard on your children so they could improve and improve. But like it's been found that a lot of that could lead to trauma, right? Where if you were to sit on that chair with your therapist, right? Those are some of the first things that will come up is how hard your
Mm,
parents were on you. And despite maybe you being high functioning, a lot of achievements, in the sort of roots within you, you're always lamenting that you never got enough of that positive reinforcement from your children. So,
mm.
not telling anyone how to parent their children, because, hey, I know it would come up. Carlos, do you even know? Do you have kids? Because that's always something that comes up, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how it is. You blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is
I love you.
it's useful. It's useful to give kids as much positive reinforcement as needed because
Mm.
hey, I didn't learn about Kant until I was such and such years old, right? You don't
Yeah.
come out the womb knowing about dignity, right?
Some people
So
do.
some people sure, but that needs to be reinforced, right? That needs to be
You did know
emphasized.
about Rutherford B. Hayes when you were 6 months old, though.
I was like 7 or 8. Interestingly enough, I used to have this presidential map. Like it was a placemat, so I could eat on it, but it had all the pictures of the president on one side, and then it had like a United States map on the other. So that was my very early introduction to learning who all the presidents and all the
Uh,
states with the capitals.
oh
But
man.
anyway, shout outs to my parents for making me a nerd. But where was I? Yeah, positive reinforcement all the time. Just letting the kids know. You speak about strength based learning, identifying what they're good at, and
Mm.
nurturing that, encouraging them to keep going at it. I went, did we talk about this? How that quote I found from Bill Gates around the things you're most likely to be world class at or what you were interested in between the ages of
Mm.
13 to 18?
No.
Maybe I was talking to my dad about that, but that's it's hit home because I heard that years and years ago. But and maybe this is unrelated to dignity, but like when I go back to I'm a problem solver, right? But like lately, I've been going back to the things that I found myself interested in during that time span. And it isn't, maybe it's unrelated to the Bill Gates quote, but the Bill Gates quote reminded me of that. Like, what was I interested in when I was 13, 14, 15, 16 years old? And like now it's like slowly but surely I'm starting to do those things. I was always like designing and
Mm.
sketching things or filming stuff, right? Yeah, and a lot of that's coming back. It's like I feel the urge to do some of that again 20 some odd years later, right? And it's I don't have any regret because I've gone through
Mm.
a very messy journey. I don't want to do that over again. Why would I? So no point in regretting anything, but it's like it would have been nice to hold on to those things and to see them
Yeah.
through quicker rather than maybe being a bit pragmatic about it. Sure, hey, I moved to LA to be a bit more creative, but still there's almost that you're tipping toe around, and maybe that's that slap in the
Mm.
face of reality. It's like, oh, you got to do something with your life, Carlos. You got to, but it's like, do you? You know, isn't that doing something with your life? Is holding on to those dreams and those skills and those strengths that you had early on. Um, how do you turn that into something as a contributor to society? Um, so yeah,
Hmm.
going back to that strength-based learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next example I have about how do we maintain dignity and some of the good things that have been happening lately is I was kind of combing through some of the recent articles over the last year, and I keep seeing a lot of initiatives, not only in this country but in other countries, on housing first. And it's this idea we, if you go back to Mad World, we talked a lot about different crises and how to handle them. We did an amazing episode on guns, and we probably did an episode on housing. And there's so
Sorry.
many problems. What?
Sorry to chime in, everyone. If you're listening and we mentioned Mad World, Bertram and I used to have a podcast titled Mad
Yes.
World, where, unlike with the upside, we focus solely on the issues at hand
Yeah.
and really deconstructed those issues. And at times we'd come up with solutions, but moreover,
Tried to.
we'd
Yeah.
come out with takeaways, right? Okay, how do we
Mm.
understand this now? And it did weigh on us a little bit, and that really was the genesis to the podcast that we have now, is
Yeah.
looking at the
And
upside.
we every issue ended to be, it was multifactorial. And so when you're addressing homelessness, it's such a complicated issue because everyone argues over what to treat first, right? Do you treat the addiction? Do you treat trauma? All these things. And what I really appreciate is there's studies that are coming out that are addressing, hey, we tried this in Portland, or we tried this in oh man, I think it was Portugal, where if you address housing first and say this is the first thing that we're going to do, and then we're going to also throw in all these other supports, it seems to have a lot of success. And I really think that's a really awesome development into the world for how do we help people maintain their dignity, right? They can still live in a place, they can have their privacy, they can have a place to put their things, they can have something to take care of. And I think that's a really good idea for giving people their dignity back. What do you think, Los?
I think so. I think so. And I do see a lot of it. I see a lot of everything living here in Los Angeles,
Sure.
specifically in the area of town I live in. And sometimes, hey, I lose sight of the fact that they don't have a home and the trauma that comes through not having a home, and maybe not addressing some of these issues. And I would still argue personally, right? Housing does need to be the priority, but don't forget about the other things. So that's one thing there. But yeah, if you have a home, if you have something where that's one less thing you have to think about, right? When you're going through the day to day and all of the difficulties that take place within the 24-hour span, if you have at least have a place to go to, right?
Yeah.
That sort of right to shelter, or right to housing, if you will, that's, you have a sense of who you are. You have that dignity in place there. So very important. And for us to be able to bring people back to that, hey, that's helping your neighbors out. That's, bettering our society. Because if those people on the margins are doing better, then everyone's doing
Yeah.
better.
Absolutely. And that's what multiple articles talked about. There was another topic about intergenerational living that I also was researching while I was looking at this idea of, you just said, if you help the people on the what, how'd you say that one more
The
time?
margins.
Yeah, helping the people on the margins lift us all up, right? Um, Intergenerational living, they were talking about some different ways that uh, they were designing communities so that senior citizens would interact with children more, different than multi-generational living, which is just a bunch of different generations living together in a community. Intergenerational was more about how do we specifically design these so that these two types of people interact, right? And just giving people on the margins, because I would argue some of our senior citizens would also be on the margins too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Making sure that they get to keep their dignity too, as a community benefit, right?
Yeah, I think of if we think of ourselves, right? Whenever, because we are old already, but when we're a little older,
We're no longer those kids that used to go to the basketball park and get
Bertram,
yelled at.
Bertram, old are you again?
I am 65 years old. I'm not.
Anyway, we feel like it sometimes.
Not even 40 yet,
But when
technically.
we're of
Still
that
got a ways to
age
go.
in our 70s and 80s, and hey, if the universe allows me to
Don't
go
say
into
it.
the
Don't you
90s,
say it.
that's wild. But if I'm of that age, I personally would still want to see kids, right? Kids around. I don't want to
Yeah.
just see a bunch of old people around, with all due respect to my fellow elders at that time. I'd like to see kids. I'd like to see teenagers. I'd like to see, people of all ages around me. I just don't want to see gray and the staff who's feeding me and they're
Yeah.
responsible for my sponge baths all the time. Like I want to,
And that's interesting to talk about too, right? Because I feel like the very quick go to is the homeless population, where it's very tough to maintain your dignity when you're living such a brutal life right there. You have nowhere to go. But with senior citizens, when you're talking about, man, I'm in a hospital and they got to wipe me and change diapers, do all these things, and that is also a place where it is almost impossible to keep your dignity the older you get. And at what point do you say, I can't live with dignity anymore, and it's time to start bracing for the end. So I think that is an important conversation that we all need to keep in mind, so that we give people those opportunities to maintain dignity.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's all I got, man. I hope everyone reads the comments. Go post in there, answer those questions. Like, when can you think of a time that you were able to have to display dignity in the last week? Drop us a line. Let us know.
Yeah. Know your worth. That's the big takeaway from
Oh
this.
yeah.
Know your worth.
And it's not nothing. It's not
Yeah,
nothing.
it's
We
more
all
than,
have
yeah.
something.
Yep. So that's today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Again, press that subscribe, follow button,
Punch it.
recommend us, punch it. Just Mike Tyson, blow to the face. That was a song I recently listened to. So, Mike
No,
Tyson
sir.
to the face by the Clips. But yeah, so thank you so much for listening. Tap 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 that follow button. You should have seen Bertram's face. He
Gross.
said, "Excuse me." But
Gross.
anyway, please press, tap, punch that subscribe or follow button. Leave us a review, give us a rating, and spread the word of what we got going on here. Your soon to be favorite podcast, if it isn't already, The Upsiders. And we'll see you on the other side, and that is The Upside. Bye bye.